Chapter 3, ODE to the O. My mom, sister, and I would go to Oceanside to my grandma's house on the weekends. I loved it out there because the beach wasn't too far from her house. All the grandkids would walk to the beach or get dropped off there with boogie boards and all. We walked down the pier and look at the names carved in the wooden rails, or we would go to the harbor and go to the candy store. My favorite candy was rock candy because it looked like a rock, but it was candy, and you sucked on it like a jawbreaker. We also stopped in the fish market and looked at the different kinds of fish. Then we'd go to the water and crash against waves, ride our boogie boards, and do the things kids love to do at the beach. Plus, I love looking at the different females in their bikinis and shit like that. Our little badasses love to lay in the water and let the current pull us further out into the ocean. We start on one end of the beach and end up on the other. If you weren't careful, you could get lost quickly. It was dangerous to play by the jetty because you could die, but we did the dumb shit anyway. There's a few ways you could get to the beach from my grandma's house: catch a ride or the 316 bus. We walked down and up this big ass hill passing Capistrano Park most of the time, then made a left on San Luis Rey Drive and walked to this underpass under the freeway. It was a little dark down there and kinda scary too. You see all types of graffiti, and sometimes you might even come across a bum down there sleeping. It wasn't a place you would want to go by yourself, especially at night. You could also sneak on the Marine Base Camp Pendleton and go through North Terrace Elementary, then cut through San Luis Rey Elementary and walk to Harbor Drive to the harbor. That was dangerous as well because you had to watch out for the cars coming off the San Diego freeway on their way to the military base. I loved going to Capistrano Park. I just hated walking back up that big steep ass hill. I rode a bike down it before and it seemed like I had it at first, but then that front wheel started to wobble. I tried to turn into the parking lot and boom, I ran to the curb and flew off the bike like a fucking crash dummy. I laid on the ground for a few minutes until I caught my breath. But then I got up, dusted myself off, and checked my body for cuts and bruises. I was alright, but that shit did hurt. And I never tried that crap again. Once we went on the east side to Balderrama Park for Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the oldest celebration to celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. Going back to 1865, on June 19, Union soldiers went to Galveston, Texas, with the news that the war had ended and the slaves were free. At the Juneteenth celebration is where I was introduced to buffalo wings. I was confused at first because I knew buffaloes didn't have wings. Once I saw them, I was like, oh, these are chicken wings, just a little bigger than normal. I got on one of those tire swings and this older kid was pushing us hard and my ass stuck my head out and boom, I hit the back of my head on a wooden beam. I put my hand on the back of my head and blood was gushing every damn where. My cousin looked at me crazy as hell. I started crying, but I couldn't hear myself. Everything went silent. The boy stopped the swing and I jumped off holding the back of my head, screaming for my mom. And when she turned around and to see why I was crying, she was like, oh shit then. She picked me up and rushed the restroom to wash the blood from my head and hands. Since we lived in Compton, our medical insurance didn't have coverage in San Diego County and we had to drive back to LA. I remember on the way my mom kept telling me not to fall asleep. When we finally made it to LA, we went to the ER and they said that I needed stitches. Boy, I was hella scared. And when the doctor came in the room to put in the stitches, I noticed that he was a white man. And I told him that I didn't want him to do it. I wanted a black doctor. I don't remember what the doctor's facial expression looked like, but he left and a black doctor came into the room. Instantly, I calmed down and let him put the stitches in my head. Raised by a black militant living in Compton, California, all I knew was black and brown people in the mid and late 80s. We didn't even celebrate Christmas. We celebrated Kwanzaa. My little sister and I learned how to talk in Swahili and worship the 7 African powers and the Santeria. I remember 2 of the powers. One was a goddess of the water and the other was a god of thunder. My mom's friend Ray was on the cover of the Ebony magazine marching with the Black Panthers. He was a cool-ass older black dude and never harmed us or talked shit to us. If anything, he opened his doors to us. Ray taught me a lot, but some things I was too young to grasp. He was involved in many community stuff for black people and taught Tai Chi at the park. He was also friends with the lady who created Sun Man, which I believe was the first black action figure. Ray even gave us new names. I was Ra, my sister was Rashi, and my mom went by Akiba. But once we moved to Oceanside, eventually all that changed. Slowly but surely we stopped practicing that religion. It all became a distant memory to me, but you know what? You live and you learn.